What's up guys, it is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be talking about the newly announced Romancing Festival Rocbouquet banner that brings 4 different styles, and we already have all the information on them, starting with Rocbouquet. She's now a Nessus Word user with access to Shadow and Cold spells. Die being a hybrid, status distribution is a little messed up. We have 78% endurance, but 92% will. Good values for love and charisma, and she doesn't have very high intelligence, 101%. It should be enough to debuff enemies most of the time, but it may fail in very hard challenges. She has 110% dexterity because she has access to S-word skills, and 110% agility to be fast to debuff. So I kind of understand what they did here. She needed to have a little bit of everything, and I saw much worse hybrid units, so that's okay. On battle begin, she grants all enemies this effect called Mad Love for 2 turns. It can trigger 3 times when they are attacked after you cast. It will give your allies an attack boost that increases damage potential by 10% and lasts for 2 turns. It can stack with any other attack boost. So that's interesting because you can actually get a lot of damage if you are using multi-hit attackers. They will just allow you to get many buffs, and if there are multiple enemies, they will trigger this multiple times, but it's the only time where she can apply an AoE version of Mad Love. And wow, we have turn begins, triple riffin 3 times. Triple riffin is similar to the passive of Dantarg, where each time you attack, you will be able to buff STR dexterity and intelligence by 20%. Since this one triggers 3 times, it can trigger more than Dantarg that can only trigger 2 times. And this version is just offensive, STR dexterity intelligence, while Dantarg's version is all status. But in a fight where you can buff, doing damage will increase your damage output even further. By the end of a turn, she also gets 25 points of Overdrive Gauge, because she is actually very fast to reach that point and has extra effects on Overdrive. When she attacks, she gets 2 BP and also recover HP by around 300. And on the Overdrive attack, she activates Skill 3. Skill 3 is her main selling point, kinda. For 10 BP, you have a SS Shadow spell that is Shadow and Lightning damage, and it's also fast, and when the attack lands, it grants the target Mad Love for 3 times. So you already start the fight by granting Mad Love, and you can apply it right on start again, that you actually have it for 6 times to get as much as 60% attack boost. You can still cast another skill again on turn 2, but that will rely on, well, some effects and the chance of chasing that she carries as well. It's 50% chance to trigger Lightning of Darkness, and then 50% chance to trigger Tree Flower. Lightning of Darkness is an S-power attack with Shadow and Lightning, and it carries all status debuff. Because it's used as a chase, it will debuff only 10%, and also applies attack down, decreasing damage potential of the enemy by 10%. Tree Flower is an AoE attack that also buffs Will by 15%. It's not that great, but, well, it's just extra damage. And because of that, when she triggers chases, she gets another extra BP. So, by normal setup, you get 5, and then maybe 7, maybe 9, because of the chase chances. She still has a 20% damage increase. When attacked, damage will be reduced by 30%, and if she resists the attack, she decreases by another 40. So pretty defensive unit with access to some gimmicks. She won't be doing that much damage like her bunny style, but she helps the party while the bunny version doesn't. And now we have skill number 1, that is a single target Pierce and Lightning attack that, when the attack lands, grants morale down medium to the enemy, decreasing damage potential by 25%, lasts for 2 turns, and also decreases the enemy STR and intelligence by 15% on max rank. One thing to notice, this has no chance. It guarantees that it will apply those effects. Even if she's a debuffer as well and her intelligence is low, she doesn't have any problem to land the debuffs that she has. She may have problem landing debuffs from inheritance. The second skill is, again, single target. This time it's Pierce and Shadow. 8 power, 6 BP, and when the attack lands, grants War Down Medium to the enemy. decreasing the defenses by 25%, lasts for 2 turns. Morale down and guard out don't stack. So this is something that you want to cycle. It will also debuff the enemy's endurance and will by 20%. Again, not a chance to debuff, it always lands, that you can increase damage potential. Maybe you can use this before overdrive turn, but I don't know. It's not the best skill that she wants to use, especially on boss fights, but maybe just the last turn. Now, the third skill is a 10 double S power that we already discussed, it being Shadow and Lightning fast that applies the Mad Love 3 times for 2 turns. So all in all, she is very useful if you got her bunny style because she has Lightning Barrage, a skill that gives her another 25 points of overdrive gauge and an extra chase on overdrive as well. So when she is attacking on overdrive, she's gonna chase twice. The inheritance buffs her intelligence and also debuffs the enemy will. And here you have the double S power attack as chains that will also give you another Mad Love, and this will trigger more attack boosts. She will help party do more damage, and you can also inherit something like Cycle Boon if you want. Cycle Boon can debuff the enemy intelligence and can buff her own as well with Euthanize. She gets extremely high amounts of BP, can use whatever she wants. Can also inherit Lightning of Darkness from her Perfector style, while she will be debuffing all status by 15%, applying the attack down. You may get another Lightning of Darkness to debuff by another 10% and get the secondary attack down. But she works as she is as well, just cycling between skill number 3 and then skill number 1. Since you are applying morale down, you are also decreasing damage taken. This is also important unless you have other morale down attackers in your party. Rocbouquet is yet another meta unit that will help in the current meta where we need higher damage output because enemies keep triggering defense ups. By stacking many attack boosts, you can actually cover that up and allow everyone to do more damage, while she can still be used as a debuffer. She really shines by also using S-Words. Well, I think that Rocbouquet is the best of the banner. She would have received an OP grade in the tier list. As she is right now, I believe she deserves at least a 4.5 out of 5. Can still be skipped if you want, if you don't have inheritances, but as she is, she's pretty much useful. Moving on, we have Kzinssie, and he is a sword user with shadow spells. As you can see, he only has spells this time, but can inherit sword skills if you want. Has 78 endurance, but 89% will. Will is better. Intelligence is not that high, just 116%, but has 101% agility because he's a debuffer. He needed to be fast, but he's not as fast as Rocbouquet or Xiao. On turn begins, gets 1 damage block that only lasts for 1 turn and 1 time, and enters stealth stance, so it doesn't like to be attacked. When the attack lands, also recovers 2 BP. By the end of a turn, if no damage was taken in that turn, recovers HP by around 1000 and also gets 3 extra BP. Well, he's not really a farmer, so I don't think that this would trigger in boss fights at all. Unless we're talking about some very specific remembrance fights. Then by the turn begins, again, you get this 37% chance to enter an evasive stance, and then okay, in this time, you will not be taking damage, and you will also recover your HP by the end of a turn, and also 3 BP to use some other skills. We'll also buff on agility and intelligence by 20% every turn, and when attacking with skill number 3, you grant the attack down to the enemy. This decreases the attack potential of the enemy by 20% for only that turn, and will also grant itself a heat up. With that heat up, extreme that can trigger 4 times in battle. This increases damage potential by 30% for the whole fight, so you can reach as much as 120% just by use of skill number 3. But skill number 3 is kind of funny. It costs 10 BP, it starts with AoE, E power slash and shadow, and before attacking, then you will do 10% HP recoil damage to all allies besides yourself, and then you will attack, and when the attack lands, it will decreases all enemies status by 15%, and then after that activates Psycho Noise Plus. Since it will use the same rank as this main skill, that is actually interesting. Okay, you will lose 10% HP with all your other allies, but you'll be debuffing the enemies all status by 15%, but they will lose 35% of their intelligence and 35% of their will. So this value is pretty nice. You will not have 10 BP every turn with Kzinssie, unless you have trigger your BP passives a lot, but maybe you need ScherBR, but the skill is not fast, and you are also dealing damage to your allies. I don't think the price is good. Then you also have this 30% damage reduction and 25% chance to evade an enemy attack. That's okay, but it's trying to trigger the passive where he gets 3 extra BP on a turn where he didn't evade fully. So you have 1 damage block, and you still trigger the evasion chance before you get the damage block. So there's something here, but I don't think that's really great, to be honest. For skill 1, we have an AoE attack that has a chance to debuff the enemy's STR with only 1 BP cost. It's pretty much almost free. And the second one is a 9 BP single target attack with triple S power that when the attack lands has a high chance to instant kill the enemy. So overall, you'll be scaling your status and trying to apply that attack down together with all status debuff and intelligence debuff. But sadly, your agility is good, but not as much as it could have still be if you were running top debuffer like Shiel. So it works, but I feel like we are missing something here. Kzinssie does not bring the debuff meta towards the future, and while he works, he's dangerous as well. I will give it a 3.5 out of 5 as my new grade system. Next one is Dantarg, and Dantarg has 125% STR, and then 103% endurance and 76% will. Forget about the endurance and will, you will not be using this character outside of farming, unless you have nothing else for remembrance. You have 98% agility, but this guy will be using on the Godspeed stance, so speed is not a problem. When battle begins, you have 3 extra BP, and you also get this fast stance, but only for 1 turn and round begins. That means that if you are in a free quest stage that has just 1 enemy, it can use the Rearguard focus formation to get 75% increase in your STR to actually do more damage. But if there's 2 waves, you are better off just using Godspeed stance, and that will work. You will also get this critical stance. Critical damage increases damage by 20%. Then when you defeat the target, you get 10 BP as extra. Quick attack land increases damage by... We then get a 40% damage increase for weak attacks, then another 40% increase to weak attacks. Then we get 30% for critical attacks, you always do critical, and then we get a 50% increase for 1 round. So you see, this guy has 180% damage increase. That's a lot, and it's made for farming, and he can actually farm pretty well. He has a 12 BP AoE pierce attack with S power. Well, you can use this on turn 1, and then you kill the targets, you can use it again on turn 2. The speed is actually pretty okay, and he can replace those without Merlot-Syrah for stages where the enemies are weak to pierce. If you have Merlot-Syrah, you are pretty good. But it's not just about this. You can inherit an AoE blunt attack called Knockout Plus and do the same thing for enemies weak to blunt. And you can use it 2 times to farm different stages. You can still farm with skill number 3 where the enemies are weak to pierce and heat, and there's just 1 enemy. Since it attacks randomly 5 times, you will have enough power to solo with this character on all these scenarios. Even scenarios where you find enemies weak to pierce and heat, and they are aligned in a row if you have inheritance of one of the past premium styles. But that's not really necessary. You can run Dantarg with just this style and inheritance of a platinum one with Knockout Plus. So Dantarg works pretty well, and if you already have Merlot-Syrah, there's no many reasons to summon for Dantarg. It's just replacement, but since it also works for blunt, you already have characters that can do blunt in single target. For heat, for pierce, you are already set. You don't need that many farmers anymore unless you want to pay the price. This character is 5 out of 5 for grinding, but for anything else, he's just 2 out of 5. So think about that. Moving on, we have Bokhohn, the last character here, and he is kind of strange. I just like the design. You have 82% endurance and just 84% will. Those are pretty bad values. 86% for a debuffer is non-acceptable in current game, and 112% STR makes it very bad for damage. When our allies are alive, we have a 50% chance to evade enemy attacks. That's okay. Then on turn begins, buffs on STR and intelligence by 20%. That will help because the intelligence is kind of bad and you will have better chances to land debuffs. Also, when any attack is used, activate skill number 1. Skill number 1 is the weakest chase in years. It's just deep power, and it's usually just use it for free. And then when the attack lands, there's a chance to debuff the enemy agility by 10% because it's a chase attack. Why would you need to debuff agility by 10%? You also have a 50% chance to trigger skill 3. That is an APP cost skill with double S power, single target blunt as well. And when the attack lands, you will clear the enemy's agility and intelligence buffs and also try to debuff then agility and intelligence by 15%. We remember some fights in the past where the enemies will just keep buffing and we needed to debuff, but also buff cleans. And well, we have Asper Gal. If you have her, she works just the same, but much better. So you can get the chase and then debuff the values by 35%. I use the command and then the chase. The character just has 5 BP per turn, meaning that you have to usually cycle between skill 3 and skill 1 unless you have BP batteries. So it's not reliable, and the thing here is that you don't have high enough agility to make it work before the enemy most of the time. But we have here something interesting. Skill number 2 is 7 BP. Its support can only be used once per battle and grants Enervate 3 agility, Enervate 3 intelligence to all allies. This will give then all, including yourself, a 25% chance to land a 15% debuff to either agility, either intelligence, both any. Well, it's extremely RNG, and you cannot rely on such a thing in a fight where the enemy just removes debuffs by the end of turn. So it's hard to say that Bokhohn is a good style. He is extremely unreliable, and even considering the chase attacks, they are extremely bad. I feel like this character really is one of the worst ones of recent times, since we got plenty of good buffers like Chiel, Asper, like Summer or Latte, that's club, even Paulus, that's also club. What is Bokhohn even doing? If you already have his school version, it's a much better one that can use it for damage. In Remembrance fights will not switch into this one, I'm pretty sure of that. So this guy here will only receive 2.5 out of 5. Sadly, it's the worst of the banner, and even this whole selection. Rocbouquet banner has less value than Gerard's banner when you consider that we have 2 meta units on Gerard's banner, Gerard and Noel. Here we only have Rocbouquet, and we also have Dantarg, but Dantarg for many people is not really necessary if they are running Merlot-Syrah. So there's this thing. And even on Gerard's banner, you have Subir. The while not necessary a must pull is someone that will do a lot of damage for spears, and we kind of need more damage dealers there. And can still be used for some long fights. So maybe 3 very useful styles for Gerard's banner and just 2 very useful styles on Rocbouquet's banner. So I believe this will receive a silver award when I make the full review, but I'm not so sure yet. But in the end, this is just my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. And if you want to support the channel, we have links in the description of the video. I hope to see you soon in the next one.